All right, I believe the recording has started. So welcome to tonight's leadership call. I'm Chris Goodrow, not Michael Huey. As you can tell, I don't look anything like him or talk like him. And I'm a lot shorter than Mike is too. But I'm living in the state that actually he started in. So we have a little bit in common with the Buckeyes and everything. But I'm a Premier Pro for it. I'm in Toledo, Ohio. I see a couple of my teammates on here. And a little bit more about myself is that I've been with a company called Dent Wizard for 19 years. This is a little bit part of my story, a little bit back of my background that I had in the slides. But I've been with them for 19 years now, 17 years as a technician. I actually manage 25 guys. I cover an area that includes Ohio, Indiana, and Michigan. It's about 67,000 square miles. I drive about 5,000 miles a week, and we manage about 250 dealers currently. Right now, the vision plan for us is to continue to grow and expand. So they want me to add about another 3 employees and take my travels about 3 hours from home every week, possibly going into 2020. They're very big on growth, as we are in our business. We want to continue to see our numbers grow month after month, year after year, so we can continue rank advancing and get to those things that we'd rather do and enjoy. Some of the things that I would love to do is I would love to be able to retire earlier, get a lot more time with my family, especially my little one. She's 7 years old, going to be 8 here pretty soon. She's a groundhog's baby. So hopefully when I throw her outside on February 2nd, she sees her shadow and isn't frightened, then we can get less winter. So I can get some nice warm sun. I've been married to my wife for 19 years now. We met a little over 20 years when we were in college. It's kind of a crazy story how we met, but it was this crazy thing called the internet. It was, we met on accident on a college chat, believe it or not. We spent a lot of time talking to each other, then spending some time on the phone, and then decided that after about a half a year, it was time to go meet her, and we hit it off, and we've been together ever since. We started out very young, and marrying someone when you're 23, 22, 20 years old, you don't think that those types of things are going to work, but here we are. We've had our struggles, and now we're living the good life, as they say. But and the other thing that we love to do is we love to spend some time in the Smoky Mountains. I don't know if anybody's been down in the Gatlinburg area. Yep,
Yeah,
it's an amazing place.
But Chris is the one who talk.
Yep, we go there every single year. We love to get the cabins up in the mountains. If you haven't been, I suggest that you guys do that. We were actually married there 19 years ago, and 4 years ago we took our daughter for the first time. We did a 15-year vow renewal at the same exact place we got married. And we have kind of a vision of wanting to purchase some property there. It could be potential second income, a little bit of a second home, where we could actually rent out the cabin on the days that we're not using it and then block out days that we can go. So when we talk about residual income with LifeVantage, this is another way to make some residual income by allowing us to rent out places and have someone else kind of take over the reins, and then they get a little bit of a percentage and we get a percentage, and it gives us a third income stream. So Mike, I see that you're in the car, you're off the plane. Would you like to jump in here? I gave him a little bit of my story, my background, and my why when I'm doing it, but you're the master. This is your call.
What's up, buddy?
How you doing? How are you? How was your flight?
It was great. Nice haircut, my brother.
You like that?
I do. I like it. I like it.
Rachel, she works at Soto. She's very busy. You'll have to make an appointment.
Well, it's funny because one of the things that I'm really not looking forward to when we move is changing my hairdresser after 25 years. So, yeah. And I'm definitely not driving to Toledo to get a haircut. That's okay. So, you want to pull up those slides, Chris?
Yeah, let me go ahead and share that right now.
All right.
Hey, don't be knocking Toledo, Mike. There's some good barbers in Toledo.
Hey, shut up. You're in Michigan, man. I shut up.
Let me see it here. You got it, Mike?
No, you're good. You can do it. I can't.
Yep.
You can control it.
Yeah, we can see it.
We can see it, but you can control it.
Okay. So I see that our guest is on.
Yep.
Dr. Michael Lyman.
You got it. You got it controlled there, Chris?
Yeah, I got it controlled. No problem.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Dr. Michael Lyman. He's an Elite Pro 7. Forgive me, Michael, I'm going to have to read a little bit of this. It is very long, and I could not memorize all of this, and I don't want to get anything wrong.
Chris, make it a little bit bigger. Click the little icon down on the bottom and make it a little bit bigger so everybody can see it. You can see all the slides. Bottom right corner there, there's a little, looks like TV. You can click it on and make it full screen.
This? No?
No, it's one of those right down there where you are. There you go.
Got her. All right. So again, our guest tonight is Dr. Michael Lyman. He's an Elite Pro 7. Dr. Michael Lyman is the first and the foremost a believer in the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, a father of 4 and a grandfather to 7. As a practicing chiropractor in Sacramento, California, Dr. Lyman loved his work and patients, but after years of 12, I'm guessing that's 12 to 14-hour days, not 12 to 4-hour days.
Yeah.
Because I don't think anyone's going to complain about a 4-hour day. But he was becoming discouraged and realized that he was missing almost all of his precious family and the moments that make life worth working and sacrificing for. Still, he saw no way to change his stars. Then in 1998, he was introduced to the industry of network marketing through a friend and a colleague of the chiropractic school who had achieved tremendous financial and time freedom success in the industry. The deeper meaning of this type of success couldn't be denied. He became completely obsessed with finding a company with which he could create this success for his own family. Finally, in 2009, after 11 years of searching, he was invited to view the ABC Primetime Investigative Report and knew he'd just seen everything he needed to know. He found LifeVantage. Like a lot of us on this call, that ABC Primetime Report opened our eyes, and we then were introduced and found LifeVantage. So Michael Lyman, go ahead and take it away, sir.
Hey, Chris, let me say something real quick before you turn it over to Michael. Guys, I've known Michael for a while now, and the reason I'm grateful that he was able to do this because, and then Chris, you can stop sharing the slides, that way we can see Michael when he starts talking. I'm grateful the reason that Michael's on today is because, guys, I just came back from the Building Depth event. Lisa just literally picked me up at the airport, and I am encouraged more by attending that event than anything I've done in my 9 years of journey. And I'm encouraging you guys, if you want to be successful, you have to sacrifice. And if I'm going to sacrifice knowing that there's only going to be one corporate event in 2020, which is convention, you need to make a sacrifice to get yourself to Building Depth. Michael gets to do this business with his son and raise his kids and his grandchildren. And that's something that him and I had the privilege of speaking on Friday. And I'm not condemning anybody, but I'm not on my phone. I'm not distracted when I'm at Building Depth. I want to hear everything that over 30 elites say in 2 days. And I'm just going to say this publicly, that when Michael talked, I was excited about my talk, but I was more excited after I heard him talk. And Michael and I have known each other for a while now, several years. And I had the privilege of teaching LifeVantage Academy out in California, where a lot of his team is and where he resides. And he's my brother in the Lord, but he's also my LifeVantage brother. And every time I see him, I feel like he's one of the people that I can know, like, and trust, and I can respect. So, Michael, with that, brother, you take it away. I love you, man. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you so much, Michael. And guys, yeah, I couldn't agree more. Those are life-changing events, and they really are the heart and soul of our company as far as I'm concerned. If you guys aren't familiar with Building Depth yet, it's a principles-based leadership development program, and it's a system that is so fundamentally strong. We really can't go wrong. They don't really care how we invite. They just care that we do the principles that are required to create success in our LifeVantage businesses. And anyway, it's such a privilege to be associated with that group. Those group of elites are, as far as I'm concerned, the best that this company has to offer. Their hearts are just so strong and so in the right place, so fundamentally understand what it takes to build these things, and that it's all relationship based, and it's all about helping and blessing each other. And Michael, it's just, I I've been so impressed with you, and I've got to say this, you guys, not just because it's Michael's call, but because it's the truth. You know, he came out to Sacramento and he changed the way that we looked at things and the way we saw things. He made the kind of impact that a leader can make. And so, Michael, it's such a privilege to be on the call with you and to be a part of the Building Depth group with you. And guys, I really appreciate all of you for being on the call in support of yourselves and your teams and what you represent with this company, and allowing me to share just a few thoughts with you this evening that Michael's invited me to do. And you guys, when I was invited to speak at Building Depth, it was my first time speaking there. You kind of have to earn your way in, right, Michael? And by attendance and doing the things. But once I was invited to come speak and to tell my story, and I really gave a lot of thought to that, because there was a couple things that happened early on in my LifeVantage experience, and actually in my network marketing experience, because it didn't start with LifeVantage, that I considered incredible blessings and absolutely fundamental to what is ultimately now becoming success as I achieve the elite ranks in LifeVantage and work further. And actually, like you said, even my oldest son, you know, again, incredibly blessed and fulfilling a lot of the dream of what I saw initially for myself by himself being an elite distributor and describing himself as a full-time dad with a part-time international business. It's funny to say, but it's so cool, you guys, because of the impact that it has. And again, that's part of what I want to share with you guys today. Because for me, this started in the late 90s, and coincidentally, it started about the same time that I understand that the NRF2 pathway was discovered, that protein messenger was even discovered by Japanese researchers. Interesting, because if I can be frank with you, I believe it's hand of God in my life and preparing me for something that was coming, but that I wasn't prepared for yet. Okay. But in the late 90s, a friend of mine, gave me a call one day, and it started off a lot like it would start for any of us. He calls and he says, "Hey, I've got something for you to take a look at, a company that I'm working with." And what I knew about this friend of mine is that we had gone to chiropractic school together. And I knew that he was always the guy in the quad talking about these silly little companies. Okay. Can any of you guys relate to that? And it didn't make any sense to me. We're studying to be doctors. I was taking myself pretty seriously, and I figured he should be too. But yet he's talking about these little companies and these little home-based stuff, and it didn't make any sense. But I remembered that about Greg, and I love Greg. He was a good man, a little older than I was, dedicated to his wife, just a solid guy. But that's kind of what I knew. And so, but I also knew that over the years of being in practice, that he had really struggled as a chiropractor to create professional success. He was in a mountain state, and he was working on ranchers and cowboys and kind of guys that don't necessarily complain about pain too much. And he really struggled, and I knew that too. And so my skepticism was a little high as he gave me a call, because when you know those things, right, it feels like people are calling because they want something from you, and especially if you know how lacking they are. And you guys, listen, I realize as you hear that I'm just describing weakness in myself, but that was the way it was at that moment. Okay. But he gives me a call, and I know he's a good man, and he tells me, "Hey, look at this company." And I say, "Why?" And he says, "Well, listen, because I've had some real success here." And I was happy to hear that. But as I started to quiz him on the success, I didn't understand. But he started to describe like Pro 8 type income in that company. Now, we'd all agree that's pretty cool, right? But I don't understand anything about network marketing. So even though he's talking about 30,000+, my question to him is, well, what's your overhead? Because I knew what it took to create income in my business, and it took big overhead. And so he described what was under $1,000 a month, and that shocked me. And it actually increased my skepticism. And I ended up telling him, no, thank you, at that call. And I'm going to kind of rush this along so I can get into the point of it all. But I said, no, thank you. And he gave it a few months. He was very patient. He gives me a call back about 4 months later. And he says, "Mike, no, you should really look." And again, I quizzed him, "Well, but come on, Greg, why should I look? I thought we went through this." And he says, "Well, has your income doubled in the last, since we spoke last?" I said, "No." Are you telling me that yours has? And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Wow." But I kind of asked him to prove it. And I said, can you show me? And he said, yeah, I can. And he actually faxed me over a check. And I'm sitting here looking at a check. It's over 70. I hope I can say those kind of things. Okay. And it's got my buddy's name on it. And I'm looking at this. And I'll tell you guys straight, I just don't understand. And I told Greg, but it was humbling to me because here's the thing. I couldn't understand how that could be happening, how you could create that kind of income with effectively no overhead in a type of an industry that I didn't even know was serious. But here's how he caught me. While I knew the things that I thought I knew about him, here's what he didn't know about me. He thought he was calling a buddy of his that on the surface was doing really well. And on the surface, I was. I had a big home. I had a stay-at-home wife and 3 kids. But I also had a huge personal overhead, huge. And a big practice overhead and a ton of stress. And some of the things I couldn't go into at the time, but I mean, here in California, the laws, were getting tougher and tougher. The truth was I was just finding myself working harder and harder for less and less money. And there wasn't just no light at the end of the tunnel. I was really starting to get concerned. Okay. And I loved what I did, but years of 12 to 14 hour days, 5+ days a week. And I had, a young teenage son and about a 10-year-old daughter and a brand new, a very young 3-year-old, probably at that time, son. And I was not there. I mean, I was gone early in the morning so I could treat my patients that needed to see me before practice or before their work. And I was there after, they got off work so I could treat them then. And so it was leaving early and lucky to get home to kiss my kids goodnight. And I was missing everything. And if you know that feeling, you guys, that's an empty feeling. When you've got 8 years of formal education, a lot invested, how do you replace a big 6-figure income? It's a desperate feeling. And that's where Greg caught me. Okay. And now I'm looking back and I'm realizing that my friend has completely outperformed me. And I'm asking him to try to help me to understand. And he said, you know what, Mike, I don't know that I can, but I'm going to send you a book. And note the lessons all through this experience, you guys, so many lessons. Okay. But he sends me a book. It's if you haven't read it, it was new at the time. It's become a very famous book, Your First Year in Network Marketing by Mark Yarnell. And I was able to read that book over time. And I started to understand. And Greg started to talk to me about concepts of leverage and residual and things I didn't know anything about as a doctor and even a business owner. Nobody ever covered that ground for me. Okay. And time went by. He continued to follow up and we continued to build rapport and he continued to try to find out what was important to me. And honestly, you guys, it took about a year. So don't forget that. It can take a while for people to understand this. It's not necessarily a conversation we can have all at once. We can start it, but we need to learn who people are and what's important to them. And Greg did that with me. And about a year after the first conversation, this is funny, Michael, I didn't mention this because again, I was under so much stress and pressure in that 15 minutes, but on Friday, but I'll never forget this. I'm in my practice. It's late in the evening. I'm seeing my last patients. And you remember the old days when you could hear a fax machine go off in your office, right? And a fax goes off and one of my staff comes walking down the hall and she's got this kind of bewildered look on her face. And she says, Dr. Lyman, I'm not really sure what to do with this. And she brings me this fax and I go, well, what is it? And she says, well, it's a check. And I say, well, just, give it to the billing person. And she says, well, it's not to you. I go, what do you mean? And she says, well, it's to this other doctor. So I look, right? And it's Greg. And I have to laugh because it's Pro 11, you guys. I mean, look at the income disclosure. It's a big check. And I had to laugh because I knew he was going to be giving me a call and he was kind of ribbing me for making him send me that check before, right? But so I close up shop, you guys, and everybody goes home and the doors are locked and I give my buddy a call. And here's the deal, all right? The year into this thing, I'm talking to Greg and I say, look, man, these months, you've shared the fact that you've got 2 now beautiful homes and you've got cars, you got the things and all that stuff. I've got it too. I just can't pay for it as well as you can, right? But I said, look, man, what I really want to know is what does it all mean? I mean, you're making so much money. What does that mean? right? And he knew what I was searching for. And he paused and he said, the first thing he talked about, and it touched me so deeply because, you know, what I didn't even share with you guys is that my marriage at the time was self-destructing, and I knew it. Okay. And it was a source of pain. And the first thing he talked about was his relationship with his wife. And he said, you know, Mike, he goes, I can't even begin to tell you how tough it was when we were really struggling and my practice, I just couldn't get it going. He goes, my wife was so disappointed. She loved me, but she was so disappointed in me. And she was constantly blaming me being distracted with these other companies. And it probably was a big part of it. But he says, I just felt this calling. I felt like I've got to go do this thing, right? I've got to go build the kind of success. And he described that to me. But he said, but now, he says that I've achieved this. He says her favorite thing in the world to do now is to plan these little getaways for just the two of us. They had 10 kids, I think, 10. It was a lot, whatever it was. And he goes, she plans these little getaways about every 3 or 4 weeks, man. She'll just get us out the door and we'll just go spend time together. And that was a sweet thing for him to share, okay? And I could relate to that. But he said, you know what? It might not even be that. He says, and he went on to describe something else. He said, you know what? We just got back from Europe. And he describes this big multi-week vacation, 5-star hotels and all this stuff. And he wasn't bragging, you guys. This was a good man, right? But he was trying to help me to understand. And he said, we took 3 girls from church to be nannies and to give them all a nice, you know, European experience and all this stuff. They took all their kids, even the youngest ones. And he says, Mike, it wasn't so much about that. He says, but, you know, here we are. We live in Montana, and he says, my kids don't go to private schools or anything, but he says, but when they're in school, he says, when they open up a book and they look at a picture of the Sistine Chapel, they've been there. And I'll just never forget this. He says, I've opened the world to my children. I used to have a hard time keeping a roof over their head and keeping them fed and shoes on their feet. And I've opened the world to them. He says, I get to talk to them as a dad, and I get to counsel them. And I get to tell them that they don't have to choose an occupation based on what it makes. They'll never be in a position, Mike, to where they're putting in a 12, 14-hour day to pay their bills. He says, I can teach them how to have a life of impact and teach them how to think bigger and not play small. You guys, that was the conversation that night. And I'm telling you, man, it just, I shifted. My paradigm just went from over here to here. Okay. As he described this, I remember saying to him, Greg, you've just described the reason for my existence. And I'm not getting it done. And you have. And I said, I'm in. If you're telling me that I can have that life that you're describing, and I can be that husband, and I can be that father, I'm in. I don't care what I have to do. Okay. And remember, you guys, this wasn't LifeVantage. It was a company out of Japan. They'd already been a big company over there, and he was very fortunate. He had failed in many, many, many companies in his pursuit of success. Okay, and he finally, just by grit and determination and never giving up, okay, he finally, in the face of all the adversity and his criticism of his wife and his loved ones and everything else, you guys, just believing in himself. And what he really felt called to do, he finally found himself at the right time with the right company. That's all there was to it. And then he applied the work ethic that he knew he could apply, that he had applied so many times before that added up to failure. But this time he applied it, and it added up to tremendous success, multi-generational, life-changing success. Okay. And I said, I'm in. And he paused. And he said, Mike, he says, if I appreciate that, and I really want to work with you, but if you're saying you've got to have the same kind of success that I'm talking to you about, he goes, I'm really sorry, but you're too late. And I'm like, what do you mean I'm too late? And he said, well, these things have a lifespan. And then he described to me what we all know as the concept of timing. We hadn't talked about that to that point. So he described it to me, and he explained to me what happens with these companies, and he described the concept of momentum. And he described what that means in terms of numbers and leverage. and the critical parts of what it takes to create these kind of world-class incomes. And it's not that it can't be done, you guys. Otherwise, we all know that there's some famous stories, but typically there's things behind the scenes that allow people to get around that. A lot of times they're already bringing a lot to the game. Either way, it didn't matter. Greg understood it, and he was trying to teach me something valuable, because he says, look, you're not going to, I already know that this company of mine is capping out. He says, I can already feel it. He says, the truth is, it was probably too late when I called you the first time, okay? Because he already had it well underway. But he said, I knew who you were, and I knew what you were like, and I knew I'd have to have a pretty serious level of success to get your attention. And the part that hurt for me in that moment, you guys, is that he was right. I doubt I would have really given him the time of day had he told me about his company back when I needed the timing, before he'd achieved what he had to achieve to get my attention. Okay. But he did say, but listen, I can do the next best thing. I can teach you what you need to look for. I can teach you what I learned over all those years of failure, so that you can then know that and hopefully get out there and find a company that you can apply all these principles to. And guys, here's the deal. And I did share this on Friday. What he shared with me in that moment about what I needed to know is what is taught at Building Depth on a tear-off sheet. It is the exact same principles that Marcel has brought to this company. Took him 12 years to understand. It's the same principles that he's teaching us how to gauge and understand not only the industry, but what do you look for in a company? What do you look for in a product or service? What do you look for in terms of trends and timing? What do you look for in compensation? What do you look for in systems and mentoring, you guys? Those are the fundamentals. Those things are universal, okay? It's not hard to understand those, even though it took me into my 40s to understand it and learn about it. But what's tough is to find the right company, because the truth is, if we want these odds stacked in our favor, we've got to beat all the odds. We have to hear about it before everybody else. And that's tough by definition, okay? But you guys, make no mistake, that is what we all have right now. And I'll tell you something else, and I'll elaborate on this maybe if I can, but you will never find a company like this again, ever. The circumstances that had to fall into place for this company to become this company are never going to happen again, okay? Because the science is too big. Cracking the aging code the way that Dr. McCord did it in 2003, okay? It wasn't a network marketing company. Therefore, universities looked at it and examined it. Therefore, they spent their money to determine what in the world was going on here. All these circumstances, you guys, are incredibly unique, okay? And it's so unbelievably powerful. It's so much bigger than any of us. All we have to do is trust in each other and apply the principles and have the grit and determination to do what is necessary for us to become the people that we need to become to have the success that this company is going to open up to us. And here's the principles that I want to tell you about. It took me 11 years to find this company. It was a tough 11 years. Michael, I didn't share this at the event. Again, just not all the time in the world. But if you guys will grace me with some time, okay, I sold my practice the next year. Because what happened for me in that moment when I shifted was so much bigger than a company, okay? I didn't need the reassurance of a company. What I needed was to liberate myself from the bonds of practice. And I couldn't do that. I had to be the kind of doctor that I had to be if I was going to keep those doors open. And it was going to require what it required, okay? But I wasn't willing to be that guy anymore. So I sold my practice. I didn't even know exactly what I was going to do. Of course, I was hoping I'd find the right company quickly, but I didn't. Okay, so here's what I did. I got small. I ended up divorcing, unfortunately, and I lost my home and a lot of other those things that were binding me up. But I just got small. I didn't try to replace that stuff with big stuff. Okay, I got a humble little home and a fixer-upper, and I built it up, and I made a cute place out of it, and I remarried a beautiful, wonderful woman that I was so in love with. Okay, and I started to recreate my life, but I did it in a way that I could control, even without a big deal network marketing income. That's what I wanted. I wanted it so badly, I was willing to do whatever it took. So for that next 11 years, you guys, I just grinded it out. I made money anywhere I could. I made good money some years and not so good other years, right? Right. My youngest son, I didn't miss anything, ever, okay? I was his T-ball coach when he was 4. You know, I never missed a practice. I never missed a game. You know, I coached him all the way through Little League to league championships and state championships. He became an all shortstop. All right. He gained a you know, full ride scholarship to a private school I couldn't have afforded otherwise. It was wonderful. And I'll tell you what, I'll never regret that time and the sacrifice to gain that time as a dad. Okay. And then I was there for my youngest daughter, who wasn't even born at the time. So guys, that's precious stuff. And it's so worthy of any sacrifice that we have to make with this company or whatever means you need to do to be that husband, to be that wife, to be that parent that we're all blessed to be with these children that we're entrusted with. Anyway, that's what that 11 years looked like. And then in 2009, finally, I was introduced to the ABC video. And here's what I'll tell you about that. Okay. That was, I knew. Okay. So for some people, they need to look into it more, but I knew it was kind of a spiritual thing, right? I knew I was looking at I understood enough about the biochemistry to realize the significance of what I was looking at. And this was before there were any peer-reviewed studies, okay? And if we have a minute, maybe I can tell you about the opportunity I had in 2009 to go meet Dr. McCord and what that event was like. But the bottom line was this, okay? In that 11 years, I learned a tremendous lesson. And that was that once this thing shifts for you, once you understand what this has to offer, and if you truly want what this industry has to offer and this company has to offer you in terms of building a leveraged, residual, multi-generational payout income with all the impact that my friend Greg could talk about, you need to make a one-time decision to do this thing and to not let anything interrupt that. I made a lot of sacrifices, you guys, a bunch of stuff that I'm probably not going to be comfortable sharing on this call. During that 11 years and in the 10 years since I found LifeVantage to become an elite distributor. But it all stems back to the value that I placed on finding this company in the first place and knowing that no matter what, I was going to do this thing and nothing was going to knock me out of it. Okay, it's a one-time decision. There's rare moments in your life when you've made those one-time decisions. This is one of those moments to make it. Okay, and here's why. Because it's not going to be easy. Hasn't been easy for me. It's not easy for Michael and Lisa. It's not easy for anybody. It might look like it's easy. Maybe there's some elite distributors who make it look easy, but it's not going to be easy. And the odds are it's not going to be easy for you, but it'll be worth it. Okay, it'll be worth it. But here's the rule to understand, and it's a life rule, and it'll serve you throughout your entire life, not just in this company. And it is this. Okay, that is that the reward for winning a great battle is a greater battle. Okay, it's not the payoff. It's not the success. It's not the accolades. That is not the reward for winning a great battle. The reward is the strength that you have gained to then approach the next and greater battle, because that is life. And it should be your life for the rest of your life, because it's all about who you become. It's not about rank. It's not about money. Okay, this adventure that you're undertaking with LifeVantage is about who you become. You need to become the person who deserves that rank and deserves that money. Okay, so in order to get that stuff, if you do it right, maybe there's ways to do it without doing that, but I'm not interested in that. Okay, I wanted to go through what it took to understand what I need to understand in order to have the kind of success that I'm looking for, because it's of no value if I don't understand it. Okay, how can I tell you to have grit and determination if I didn't have to have grit and determination? You with me? How can I answer any of your questions if I haven't gone through it? What kind of a leader do you want to be? Do you want to be a LifeVantage leader who stands there not having any understanding of how it all came together because it came together too easy and too fast? Okay, or do you want to pay the price so that when people who are good people and want what you have to offer, what you exemplify, are asking you how it can be done, you can tell them and you can know and they can feel that you know. Okay, that's why it's worth understanding the reward of a great battle. Okay, success isn't something we achieve overnight. It's something we strive for throughout our lives. It's something that our Lord and Savior exemplified for us. not because we're ever going to be him or be perfect, but because he gave us the model to strive for. And this is something worth striving for, you guys. Okay. So remember that success is an exponential curve. Okay. And the challenges and the obstacles have to be met. And it starts off flat when we're young, because we're not really prepared to do much or meet much. But if we'll have the courage to want to be the very best that we can be, and we're willing to take those small steps that aren't real steep yet, okay, we get stronger, we get stronger, and we get stronger. So that as life is going on and the challenges become bigger and bigger and bigger, guess what? One step translates to raising higher, okay, getting stronger, getting better faster. Okay, it's exponential. Don't expect Life Vantage to be any different. You've got to go through this part right here to get yourself to this part. Okay. And the last thing I want to share with you guys tonight is the thing that has been the sweetest surprise on this while I approached it. And for, seeing it back when Greg was explaining it, I just wanted it for my family, you guys. It's all I could see at the time. But as I've been in this industry and I've realized the parallels between it and the fullness of the gospel and why we're really here in this world, okay, I've seen some great people. And excuse me, but in that event, it was easier on that event to make this point, because we had Marcel Niederhauser and Blue Elam and Mark Sensato were in the room. And if there's one thing I've learned about this industry, it's the beauty of it. Okay, you guys know that we can't succeed without helping other people succeed. And it isn't even just about helping the next generation of those we know succeed. It's about helping them to then help others. Okay, it's a gift after a gift after a gift. That's what this really is. Okay, but the real beauty of it is when you look around and you see those who have achieved it. They've got it. Okay, those three masters did not need to be in that room, yet there they were. Okay, and so if you do it right, then you become, more like they are. And because I'm telling you, I know these guys. They've tasted the fruit. They've tasted the sweetness. They've tasted the blessings. They feel the depth of what all this means for themselves and inside their own families. Okay, and their greatest, and they have it. And their greatest desire now has not been just to have it. It's to share it. They want us to taste that fruit. They want us to have that incredible blessing. They want us to feel that feeling of being able to bless our posterities and know that we've created something of tremendous significance that can just be it can do so much, you guys. We can't measure the effect. Okay. And so greatness is the word that I want you to focus on. You can't play small. This isn't the time. I don't care who you are or what you've been in your life. You're in front of something that's so big. Okay. This is your moment. For some reason, you've beaten all the odds and God's put you in front of this thing. Okay. And so you need to contemplate the meaning of the word greatness. What does it mean to you? There is a greatest of all. We know that. Okay. And he is our example, but he wants us to pursue greatness, and God, your Father, wants you to pursue your own greatness. Okay. But what is greatness? I don't know what your definition is, but I read a tremendous definition by a pastor that I just have the greatest respect for. And he said, Erwin McManus, if you'd like to know his name, he's written some beautiful books. Okay. But he said that greatness is in the realization that my dreams are not for me, but for others. Right? You think about that. There's no exceptions. There might be others who feel like they're great, but if they're not living up to that one, they're not great. They might be great in their own minds, their own eyes, but that doesn't matter. Greatness is in the realization that my dreams are not for me, but for others. And I'm telling you guys, I can see God's hand in this whole thing. I know what he did for me. I know what he prepared me for. I know what I wasn't prepared to deal with at the time, but I knew the price I was going to have to pay to be able to value this company and this incredible blessing placed before me in 2009. And I knew I had a sense of who I was going to have to become that I wasn't in 2009. I just wanted, but I wasn't the man yet. Okay. And I'm not the man now. I'm just striving. Okay. But I'm gaining greater and greater understanding of the depth of what all this really means. And I challenge you guys to understand that LifeVantage is more than a company. It's more than a science. It's more than it's going to be all those things. It's going to become a global icon giant of a multi-billion-dollar company. And the world is going to recognize who this company is. They're going to know. Those are the guys that cracked the aging code. Those are the guys that brought us the Protandim family and so many other things. It's going to become an icon, but it's so much more than that, you guys. Okay? It's a vehicle for creating wealth, yes, but it's not about the wealth. It's about what the wealth does and the way we can bless our families, the way that we can cause, whether it's yourself if you're young enough, or whether it's the cause now for your own, to bless your children and your children's children, but it's to allow us to become not only the individual people that we can grow into by facing these challenges, but also to be those that can bless other people in this world and make a big impact on this life, okay? So Michael, listen, I'm gonna turn this back over to you. Thank you so much for allowing me to have the time and to not feel rushed, but to be able to maybe talk about these things at a deeper level that I wish I could have on Friday, but at least I got to tonight.
Brother, thank you. So Michael, stay just for 1 minute, just because I think that this is just super important. That I'm gonna be honest with you. I told Lisa, I said I would, and this from being a part of LifeVantage. You'll be on a call and you'll have 40 people, and then you'll have 10 people, and you'll have 50 people. But you know what I noticed this weekend at Building Depth? That everybody's went through the same thing that every single one of you on here have went through. But and us. But you know what they did? And I've been taking notes. I told my wife on the way here that this was the best event that I've ever been to in my 9 years of being involved in LifeVantage was this past 2 days. And the impact that it made. And I sat there and I listened to Michael and I listened to Marilyn Johnson, and I listened to Tracy and Russell, and I listened to the 3 top earners in this company, okay? Never in this company has there been 30 elites speak from a stage in 2 days and make the impact that allowed people to leave there different than when they came in. If we're not making an impact and making people leave different than when they come in, then to be honest with you, we're just a religious institution, because the power that's in unity and oneness, which is what Michael knows what I'm talking about. So let me ask this. Is there anybody on here that actually just paid super attention like I did? Like I came home, I've been flying since 5 o'clock this morning, and I'm freaking ready to get on the phone and start calling people. I'm ready to go on LinkedIn and make some posts and start doing things. Like, guys, let me just ask this before. Does anybody have a comment or a question or want to make something for Michael? My wife has something that she wants to say. So let me open that up first.
Thank you so much for sharing your heart in such a vulnerable way and making such an impact on all of our lives. And as you were talking, it's going to sound kind of funny, but it's true. Whenever I watch movies, I always kind of pay attention and get like a quote out of a movie. I'm like, God, just speak to me, things like that. And as you were talking, from one of the movies I saw, just kind of constantly kept going back over my mind over and over again. And a woman was being told that everything she ever wants or needs is on the other side of the unknown. And I thought that was a pretty deep and powerful statement. And as you were talking, that's exactly it. Everything you wanted was on the other side of the unknown, with network marketing in your chiropractic business and taking that risk
100%
to go forward in this industry. And you're making the life and have made the life of everything you want being on the other side of that unknown. So I just kind of wanted to share that statement.
I hope that encourages Michael, because it just one of the things I liked about is every single person that spoke on that stage this weekend has struggled. Their businesses have went backwards and forwards. but you know what? They're there. None of us get paid to go to building depth. We pay to go, right? and we go there and we're inspiring. We're away from our families. We're away from a lot of people, away from their grandchildren and their children. Michael gets to do this with his son, who is also an elite distributor. How many of you on this call would like to do a business with your child that's an elite distributor? Okay. Many of you on here have never even brought your kids to an event. Some of you on this call have grown adults and you've never taken them to an event, right? And Michael and I've heard him talk about this before. The massive impact that he's had going to events with his son. You know, Lisa and I had the privilege of really getting to know Michael's son at Tony Kratzowitz's house, just the last building depth that we went to, right? So does anybody else want to, now that Lisa's made this, I'm super fired up. Does anybody else want to make a comment or ask a question?
Lisa, look at this. When you just said that.
Oh, wow.
Do you want to tread into the unknown or retreat back into familiar? That is what I just posted. That's so funny you said that. I had to share that.
That's confirmation. Awesome. That's pretty cool.
Awesome. Anybody else want to make a comment or ask Michael a question? Because there's some of you on here that need to ask him a question. And if you want to, you can. If you're not, then I know I'm going to ask him a question. So I'm going to just let somebody else ask a question if they want. Anybody want to unmute themselves and ask a question? All right. I'm going to ask him a question. Michael, talk about the significance of it is now that you've sold your practice and the effect that doing this business with your son and what the impact that has made on your entire family, on your grandkids, and the time that you, like, I told Lisa, I like looking at his pictures. Like, Michael's one of my favorite people. Every time we see each other, it's just like, you know, there's people in your life that you want to know, like, and trust, but there's just people that you respect, right? And respect is earned. And when you know, like Michael said, and he told me this before, but just saying it publicly, like when I was in Fairfield and you have distributor after distributor coming there and teaching. And I remember Michael saying to me, Michael, this was different. And you know what? We're all different because I think that when the anointing of God is upon your life, you're going to make a massive impact more than you did. So why don't you just share that real quick, the importance of doing this with your family and how important it is for people who are listening? Because there's people on here that are doctors, that are in the medical field on here right now, that their kids get checks from LifeVantage and they've never been to a LifeVantage event. They don't know about LifeVantage. They just take the products and get a check.
Yeah, there's lots of thoughts on that one. You know, there's the obvious, you guys, is that, you know, there's no greater calling or no greater opportunity really than to be a parent. And so, you know, that's the thing that I longed for the most, but it took decades to kind of get to this point. So, you know, a little late for me, but not late for them. But then again, they're the ones I wanted it for. So, you know, success in that, right? It isn't even Michael. It's not even just my son. My oldest daughter's a Pro 5, and she hasn't pursued it the way he did, but she's done a really great job of talking to young moms and to meet them and say, hey, if there was a way to create some extra income into your family without sacrificing being a stay-at-home mom, would you want to hear more about that? And so, you know, and her husband's got a great job and stuff, but that extra Pro 5 income has made a tremendous difference for them. She's able to be a stay-at-home mom without making the financial sacrifice. It's big. It's powerful, right? It's improved their not just, you know, their life from the outside. They might have a little nicer home or whatever than they might have otherwise had, but you know, that value of being able to raise your own children, it's priceless. It's just absolutely priceless. And you know, you've already kind of described it with Mitch. I've got 4 kids. My other kids are also involved in the company, and they're feeling their way through it and figuring out how to be involved and to create it for themselves. But, you know, I don't know. To me, that whole part is understanding the power of what we really have with this company from a wealth creation tool point of view, right? if it was me, I'd sit down with the entire family and I'd help them to understand as best you can. I'd get their buy-in as early as possible on this thing to get the bigger picture. I'd probably take the positions that you need to take as a family and build this thing out strategically. Capture as much of it as you possibly can for yourself and your children if they're 18 or older. I don't know, you guys. I mean, I think that in answer to your question, Michael, the blessings and benefits are obvious. They're not really mysteries. They're just worth doing. And I guess maybe the hidden part of it is make it, maybe if I was, make it contingent upon them coming out to the events, because a lot of times if they're young enough, they don't have enough track record underneath them. They don't have enough life experience to really value what's going on in this company. And they may not be ready to hear it from you as a parent, but they would probably hear it and it'll make the impact if they come out and they gain the experience firsthand. Okay. One of the lessons that was taught to us in the very beginning, it used to really be preached heavy. It's part of the principles of building depth, but it's, they say it differently, treat the events like they're non-negotiable. Well, back when I was taught, it was just simply never miss a corporate event, right? The only excuse for missing a corporate event is a death in the family, yours. And it was funny in its own way, but it was true. And I took that one seriously. I've never missed an elite academy. I've got 30 plus of those things under my belt, and I credit them absolutely with helping me to stick with this thing. Yes, I made a one-time decision. That is absolutely true. And nobody was going to knock me out of it anyway. But those elite academies and what I experienced there were critical, but they were also, but I guess more to my point, they were super critical for Mitch.
Amen.
Okay. Cause he didn't have, the experience under his belt that I had, coming into the deal. Right. So real important for them. They've been very important for my daughter. I definitely make sure that your kids get out there or your family gets out there to these events so they can hear from the other elite distributors that are third party to you. Information that might be a little easier for them to take in and hit them in the heart the way it needs to.
I appreciate that. And I know that, like Lisa and I were just talking about this, like, I had this talk with Lisa's brother the last couple of weeks, like, getting close to a Pro 4 position, never attended one event. Right. Mm-hmm. And he said, you know what? It was my limiting beliefs. My limiting beliefs because I had tried it so often. And you guys, this is why when I watch husband and wife on that stage, wives who said, I want nothing to do this, or husbands who say, I want nothing to do with this, and then as they see that you're serious about it, they come along. And that's what I want. I want for every one of you, whether you're married or single, is that you to learn from other people that are in the same place you are. We all did this business wrong. And so I'm grateful. So let me just ask, is there anybody else before we let everybody go that might want to ask a question or make a comment?
Yeah.
I have a quick question.
You have a
How
question?
long did it take for you to start your transformation when you started building depth to learning to go the correct way instead of stepping on your toes?
How long did it take? Learning the building depth principles made sense to me as soon as I heard them, you guys. It wasn't a big challenge. They're just so true. And I just think that, it's
what we did in the beginning, right, Mike?
What's that?
It's what we did in the very beginning. When we first started this company, it never changed.
Right. And I'll even try to say it a different way, you guys, to put it in that perspective, Michael, is that keep in mind, you guys, that in the very beginning of this thing in 2009, there was nothing set. I mean, the blueprint for success was there. So the very basic principles were all right there, but it's not like any of us had ever seen, a meeting. I mean, it was all just being created. And so these principles are really all we had. And so again, we really value these principles. It's building depth, you guys, like Michael's saying, it isn't new to the company as a whole. Marcel brought all this stuff from the very beginning. It's what created the culture of this company. It's just that in some ways the principles have been lost more than they weren't there in the first place.
100%.
What Building Depth did was give us all an environment to come together to emphasize again, right? What are the fundamental principles? What do they mean? Why are they important? And how can you use those going forward? And what's worth persisting through? I don't know. Persistent.
Is that a better answer? Yeah, no, and persistent. And think about it. Think about what James Hayden said. Those guys never had access to the information that we had. They had the change of the month club. Do this video, show this video. And, it's like we sit there and I loved it. Jennings said this. She said, Michael, there's too many websites out there that distract people. Like, telling people about a pill. Like nobody wants to hear about that. Like we learned so much stuff from guys. Out of the last 9 elites, 7 of them have come from Building Depth. And all of them were Pro 3s and Pro 4s and Pro 5s. James Hayden in 2 years from 23,000 to 248,000. Come on, guys. Yep. It's not rocket science. It's not. You have principles and behaviors. I mean, I've been writing, Michael, all weekend to where my arms are tired. Like commitments I'm going to do and things I'm going to do to change. Guys, it's time. I think what I left from there, and I think Michael will tell you the same thing. It's now or never. You're either going to do this and really do it. And I couldn't believe the amount of tear-off sheets that were sold this weekend. Laura Lee Stokey came, the #1 distributor in Canada. She said, Michael, I was afraid my suitcase was going to weigh too much, right? And that's a mindset, you guys. That's a mindset. Her upline are Pro 10s, just like mine is. She's going to go and she says, Michael, I'm going to become a Pro 10 now. She says, before I wanted to quit, now I know the principles and behaviors. And, I told Lisa, I couldn't believe the tear-off sheets that went out of that building. 400 or 500 people buying massive amounts of tear-off sheets. It literally, I have been encouraged.
When you're done.
No, go ahead, Ben. Go ahead.
Okay. Hey, everything that led up to everything is the way it was supposed to happen because I didn't know what exactly question to ask until you said yours. So, the thing is yeah, with the tear-off sheets, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to rock with these. And the thing is you were talking about family, and me and my mom have that. We have a bond. We've been together, working our whole lives together, but now we actually building a business together. And she just retired the day before Thanksgiving. So she was planning on retiring another year to 2 years, and she just was fed up with the way that she was being treated for the efforts that she was putting in, and it was just dangerous for her to drive back and forth an hour each way, being 65 and her conditions and stuff like that. So she has the time freedom. We've been working together. She helped launch this business with me in an industry that does not know anything about this besides me, because I'm the first in it, and I've been a part of it for 27 years. And the thing is she's getting ready to actually drive from Dallas. I was just with her for the last 2 weeks, and I flew back up to Michigan. I've been working here. She's coming up here for Christmas, and we're getting ready to be in front of the family. She has 13 brothers and sisters, and they all have kids, and we all get together for certain things. And I haven't even launched this to my family at all. And I'm ready to rock with tear-off sheets. I'm ready to do this, and I just want to be guided in the best thing you could think of. When I do have my mom and she has those 50 hours freed up that she normally wouldn't have, she has available now. Plus, she's going to be here giving me tons of momentum, being here, organizing my whole life all the way around, because I own 4 businesses and I'm a professional athlete and I don't have a secretary and I'm all over the place. So I'm trying to get organization and be intentional about 2020, and I'm all about building depth. I just need to be guided in the right direction. I just want to know what would be the best thing, knowing going into Christmas and things, being around a lot of my family and my mom, and we've been already tagging up with this. What's the best way to approach, our family and a bunch of people? Cause I'm type person that can run 15 presentations a week, not a month, and I'm trying to just do it the right way. I don't want to run it the wrong way, and I just been kind of scattered, and so I just need to be the right guidance. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure I didn't just talk into the air.
No. Michael, you want me to tackle that for just a second?
Yeah, tackle it for a second.
All right. So my best advice right now you covered a lot of ground right there, but especially in the holiday with family and everything else, you guys focus on finding out what's important to them. If there's a message inside what I was trying to talk to you guys about today is that it wasn't about the superficial stuff. Okay, Greg had to dig into what was meaningful to me. That's when he shifted me. That's when everything changed for me. So if you want to start somewhere, learn how to invite people to look at this, but learn how to talk to people and find out what's important to them, so that they know why you're inviting them to look at this. You got to find out what they have to have a sense of what's in it for them. Okay, and it can't start off, super deep. You're not going to be able to convey all the message of my story tonight to somebody. It's too much. Okay. But you can start with what's going on in their life and what's precious to them. And you can start with easy questions like, well, listen, man, if that could change, what if it could be better? I mean, have you ever considered, approaching it from a different angle, right? If there was a way to, have you ever thought about having a business of your own? Have you ever thought about doing it differently? What if there was a better way to create income? Would that be something that you'd want to know a little bit about? You just described yourself. If they know who you are, right, and all the things that you've got going on, then that's easy to leverage off of. You can look at them and say, man, you know me, you know what I'm about, but you also know what's precious to me, right? I'm working hard. I'm doing all these other things. I've got this experience or that experience, pro athlete, whatever else you are. Okay. But look, why do you think I do it all? That's when you have a chance to share something that's impactful to them and give them a sense of who you are, that you're not just trying to bring them into a network marketing company. And you're certainly not trying to sell them a pill.
Amen.
Right? You're trying to show them something that can be an incredible blessing to their life if they want something better, right? If they want to be someone better, if they just that's the stuff that you got to kind of figure out how to get good at bringing up.
Yeah.
Because then, and it's not like you can even really describe it all. It's a discovery process for them, but it sets you up to be able to share something. Here, let me share something with you, right? Let me tell you, that'd be probably the best thing I could share with you. I want to show you an ABC Primetime Investigative Report. Why? Because it's this new science that's coming out. But go ahead.
At Christmas Eve, like where all the family is going to be together. Like I'm trying to do that in front of everybody. And here's the thing. You said a lot of great points. You hit it on everything. And another thing is I just want to ask is like, some of my family has already known that I've been a part of this. So they're already going to know. It's not like some of them don't know what's going on. I put myself out there. I just haven't approached them personally face to face yet with this.
You're right. That's the missing part. Okay.
Yeah.
The face to face.
Yeah.
There's lots of ways to start the conversation, but at some point, if they're important to you, they're worth your time and they're worth the face to face.
Yeah.
But listen, also don't misunderstand me. Don't feel like, you're at a family event and boom, it's time to bring out the ABC video. It may or may not. I mean, use your best judgment, but it might just be that the best time is to say, look, man, I'd love to have a bigger, more meaningful conversation. Can we get together, right after Christmas? It's an opportunity to set up the appointments. Okay. And recognize that what's going on with people's mindsets are distracted right now. And they're thinking about, whether it's from the religious point of view of the season or just the pressures, right, of Christmas and all that stuff. So again, use good judgment, right? But if you can tell them, look, Michael, I've been thinking about you and I've really run across something I want to talk to you about. But listen, I know that let's just enjoy the wonders of the season. But can I get some time with you, on the 27th? What's the week after Christmas look like for you? That's usually a really calm time for people. Yep. And they're taking a breath, right? And so they're more open-minded. And the new year is just right around the corner. And so their mind is now shifting from the stresses and pressures of Christmas and the holiday to all of a sudden, hey, what's this new year going to look like? So try to think about that kind of stuff.
That's really good.
Yeah. While you're having these meetings. Go ahead.
Well, here's the thing though. What if I can approach it in a way where they all want to like see me do this presentation in front of all of them at once? You know,
fantastic.
What if they don't have a problem with that? That's the type of thing I could possibly be doing. Is I could be like in front of 20 to 50 people and give it all at once in front of everyone the right way. That's what I want to do. But I don't want to but I see where you're getting at, where you can get personal because you might be able to hit a couple things that you know that your family is going through. But at the same time, you just want to be upfront because you care about everybody and you just want to, you know, you don't want to just be bothering everybody about this. You want to be able to spend the Christmas and the time, and you want to talk about stuff, but you don't want to overload things. And I understand that, and I talk a lot, so I could talk everybody's head off. But at the same time, I want it to be about the right things and not just blasting this business in front of them 24/7.
Right. So the challenge to you, again, if you understand that you talk a lot, okay, realize the value of your words, right? Work really hard on minimizing and focusing more on the impactful stuff. If you can bring everybody in a room and they're excited to be there, don't force it on them, but if they're excited to be there to hear what you're doing, and it's much more of a sharing it kind of a deal. Hey guys, I love you guys, and this is something I'm doing. I'm excited to show you, and I'd love to be able to circle back and talk. But then plan. Don't forget that the goal there that evening might not be to enroll everybody. The goal there that evening might just be to share and to score the opportunity to circle back the next week and talk to them as individuals, because they're worthy of that.
Amen.
Okay.
That's good. That's
I
good.
totally get that.
Good.
Yep.
That's good.
Thank you.
You bet.
All right. Well, I'm going to let everybody go. I'm going to stop the recording here. Oh, Chris can wait just a second, Chris. And I just want to say before we go, Chris can stop it here in a minute. I just want to say thanks to Mike. I don't know about you guys, but I'm super encouraged that we get to bring people on here who are actually doing this business and know what we've experienced, have experienced what we've experienced, you know, the ups and downs and what goes on. So I just want to thank all of you who tuned in. Let's get more people on, because next week I'm going to have somebody on that I think just went to Building Depth, who just reached Pro 5. She's a mom of 4 children. And you know, I love LifeVantage, but this weekend I just loved being a part of being around the people that we get to be around when we're in St. George. Just the lunches and the encouragement and just being under the 3. I mean, just like Michael said, Mark Shinsato changed his plans coming back from Japan and came to Building Depth, you know. So I'm super encouraged. I hope you guys are. Michael, I love you, brother. I bless you in the name of Jesus. And so, guys, let's finish this month strong. Guys, Jill and Skip Campbell made Pro 10 in December. A lot of the people at Building Depth, including Jason Kokenzie, made Pro 7 in December. Guys, it's the greatest time to talk to people. I think it's the greatest time to talk to people, because, you know, going into December, people are looking for opportunity. So let's finish with 15 presentations between now and the end of the month, right? And let's have a great week, guys. I love you guys. I thank you all for being on, and have a good week. God bless y'all. Michael, thank you. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good night.
Guys, have a great night.
Good
Thanks,
night.
everybody.
Great call, guys. Mike, can I get a copy of this somehow?
Yep, it'll be up on
My mom's not on here, but she needs to hear this.
All right. Chris, you
Thanks.
done recording?